Hello everyone, welcome to my devlog series, where every month I post a video with all the fixes and new stuff that I add to my adventure JRPG game KOTOMASHO. These videos will be posted 1 week earlier on Patreon as well as other exclusive content. So if you haven't already, go over to patreon.com/walgalen and support me over there for more early previews, behind the scenes, and cool rewards like digital downloads or even being part of the game. But anyways, let's stop stalling and start with the devlog. So last month I showed you a little bit of the wall break mechanic, and after a couple of days of tweaking it and perfecting it, I finally finished. Right now it's fully playable, it's fully working. Actually, if you go ahead and download the demo, you might be able to use it a little bit. And I even added a small reference to the original The Legend of Zelda game for the NES. So keep your eyes open and go ahead and find it. I also added a song list for the recorder of life mechanic. As some of you might know, I added a little mechanic called the recorder of life, which is basically a copycat of the Ocarina of Time, to be honest. I really like the Ocarina of Time and overall all the music mechanics in the Legend of Zelda games. So I wanted to add that, and for some reason I didn't add a song list. It didn't cross my mind, but finally I remember that that is very important for the songs, and I finally added as a menu on the inventory. And speaking of the recorder of life, there was an animation that appeared whenever you successfully played a song, and some people reached out to me and told me that it looks very weird, or it looked very weird since it breaks the pixel grid, and they were completely right. I basically took the easy path there and just animated a rotation in Unity, which is not the greatest thing to do, at least for pixel art. So I went ahead and changed the animation, and I now follow the pixel rules and guidelines. Now, one of the cooler things that I added this month, well, actually I added two cool things this month. So the first one is the bumper mechanic. This mechanic is, like the name says, is literally just a bumper that when you touch it, it launches you back. So there's a couple of Zelda games with this as well, and there's a ton of games with this, but if you played Zelda games, I think the first one that I can think of is A Link to the Past, and I think you also have this mechanic on Four Swords. So yeah, this mechanic is basically just a giant bumper that if you touch it, if an enemy launches you and you touch it, you basically go flying and you can fall into pits or get hurt by other enemies. So be careful with this. When I added this mechanic, some stuff broke and I realized that the player movement was kinda wonky for some mechanics and for the room change, and I went ahead and basically not overhauled the whole movement, but some of it related, at least the movement related to other mechanics, I basically reprogrammed it. So now there shouldn't be any issues with this, with any mechanics. And actually there's also the evade mechanic, which is a new power in the game that also broke some mechanics. So yeah, this movement change fixes a ton of stuff, hopefully. The second cool mechanic that I added is a spin tile mechanic, or you could also call it a conveyor belt mechanic, but yeah, I think spin tile is more accurate. So this spin tile mechanic, or conveyor belt mechanic, as the name suggests, is just a set of tiles that make you move towards a certain direction or a set direction, and you cannot move until you reach a tile that makes you stop. So this mechanic was heavily inspired on Pokemon, the first generation of Pokemon games, there were these tiles on the floors that when you touch them, you will slowly spin and move on the straight direction. This is basically it. It's basically the same, but it is not as slow and hopefully not as frustrating as the ones in Pokemon. Now, talking more about the art part of the development, I worked a little bit of some new tiles for the overworld. Right now I'm focusing on making and building the whole overworld, which is called the Field of Dreams. If you're watching the video, this whole map that I'm building right here is basically the overworld layout. So that's some of what I'm working right now. I made new tiles and I made some cool darkness tiles, animated tiles that hopefully look very cool on the final product. Right now I'm not showing them, but maybe on the next devlog I'm gonna show them. Other than the overworld, I'm also working on new sprites for the city that is gonna appear on chapter 2 of the game. It's gonna be a huge city. I'm trying to base the whole design on Tokyo. I'm making tons of assets for this. I already made a lot of buildings like houses and tall buildings, and right now I'm focusing on building some scenery, like some important iconic buildings that appear on Tokyo and that you can see on Tokyo, like landmarks. So that's still in progress. Here's a little bit of a concept art of it, if you can call it concept art. But yeah, it's gonna look very cool. I'm doing my best to make it look very cool, and yeah, it's gonna be a gigantic city. It's gonna be almost the same size as the whole forest area that you can play in the demo. And that's basically all the new stuff that I added this month. I also fixed a couple more stuff, although this is only small fixes. Thankfully there wasn't many bugs to fix or many issues with the game. So for example, I fixed the clicking sound effect that you could hear whenever you click the mouse on the menus. It made you think that you could interact with buttons when that wasn't the case, so I fixed that. And another small fix was that there was a signpost where you could get stuck, and now that was easily fixed. And yeah, those are basically the only things that appear in the game. And that's all for this month's devlog. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment with any suggestions on what to improve or overall cool ideas that you'd like to see on the channel and on the game. Also, shoutouts to Daryl Flood and Janet Davies, who supported me on Patreon at the supporter tier and the VIP tier. You guys are awesome, and all of this wouldn't be possible without you. If you want to appear on the YouTube video, or you want exclusive behind the scenes and early access to videos like this, please go to patreon.com/wildgallen and support me. Every little bit of help counts and it's greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the next one.